Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion, and we got some more information about the Assassin today. We got the whole Ascendancy Overhaul, which is a totally different video, and we also got two new skill gems that have been designed with Assassins in mind. Now, that doesn't mean they're exclusive to Assassins. Any class, any Ascendancy can use them, but they're ones that synergize reasonably well with the Assassin Ascendancy. So the first one is Venom Gyre and the second is Plague Bearer. Venom Gyre is a reasonably simple but interesting skill, and Plague Bearer is a more complex skill that I don't think it quite hits the mark, but I'm willing to give it a try and find out for sure. So firstly, Venom Gyre is a new level 12 Claw and Dagger skill, so it's restricted to claws and daggers. This means a couple of options aren't available. You can't use it with things like shockwave support, but there's plenty of options to use it with. It flings out a poisonous shuriken blade that deals damage based on your weapon with physical to chaos conversion and some added chaos damage. So you can see there that it's dealing physical and chaos damage, so there is a fair bit of synergy with poison already. It returns to you when it hits an enemy, a wall, or after a time, and when returning, it folds up to pierce through enemies, but it deals less damage. So basically, you fire this projectile out, when it finishes its path, it returns to you and pierces everything on the way back. You will catch all blades that return to you, storing them around you like charges, and then this synergizes with the travel skill Whirling Blades. You can have up to 30 of these blades floating around you, and when you Whirling Blades, you'll fling out all stored blades over the length of the whirl in a spiral. Whirling straight through an enemy will cause lots of these blades to hit that foe. So there's a really interesting interaction between two skills. I like this design direction. It means that you definitely won't just be using one skill to clear. I think in practice you'll probably end up using Whirling Blades connected to Fortify support and faster attacks and potentially Culling Strike, and that will be the trigger for your 6-link Venom Gyre if you decide to use this. Now the skill has many interesting interactions with projectile modifying supports. So just a quick rundown on how all of the various ways that projectiles can be modified interact. Firstly, a projectile uses up all of its available pierces. When it has run out of pierces, it then uses up its ability to fork if it has forking. Forking is binary, it's either on or it's off. You can't fork multiple times. Once it's used up its fork, if it is entitled to any forks, it then uses up all of its chains. Once it's used up all of its chains, then and only then is it eligible to return. So pierce trumps fork, fork trumps chain, chain trumps pierce. Chain trumps returning. And in practice this means that you will not want this skill to pierce for most uses. There certainly are niches where in fact it will be good for single target, where you can throw it through an enemy and then have it come back and deal damage on its way back, effectively using it like Spectral Throw in that case. So will be niches in which Venom Gyre with pierce will be okay, but I think generally you're going to want to use it with forks. Unfortunately, my immediate thought as soon as I saw strong synergy with fork was, oh, this is a perfect thing for Rigwald's Quills, because Rigwald's Quills is the best quiver in the game and it makes your projectiles fork. Unfortunately, it doesn't work because this is only available for claws and daggers, so you can't use it with bows. No Rigwald's Quill shenanigans. If you want fork, you're going to have to use fork support. But fork support was buffed in 3.7. It now has a small less multiplier for damage at a low gem level and a small more multiplier for damage at a high gem level. So it's considerably better than it was. And it was already a compelling choice for use in with certain projectile supports with certain projectiles. So definitely give some thought to using this Venom Gyre skill with fork support. You also have the option of giving it chaining. Now I'm going to suggest that you want to get your chains from other sources. Chain support has a very high cost. Not only does it increase the mana cost of the skill, but it also has a considerable less multiplier to damage, and it also takes the space of another support gem, which could have been something like Vicious Projectile Support, which would have added more damage. So high opportunity cost, decreases your damage. Chain is a great support gem for some uses, but I don't think you're going to want to use it on this one. I think what you want to do is use items like Gloomfang, and conceivably even the Deadeye Ascendancy node Ricochet. to get your chains without having to pay the extreme cost of using the chain support gem. So that's the interactions with forking. Pierce lets you deal damage to an enemy twice, as we've already mentioned. Faster projectiles lets the blades go further before they return. That's something interesting. I think you can probably give the faster projectile support gem a miss and just pick up lots of increased projectile speed on other equipment and ascendancy nodes. And I don't think it's available as ascendancy nodes outside Deadeye, but pick it up on equipment where you can, and pick it up on the passive tree. I think that's where you want to get it from. The faster projectile support gem, the numbers aren't very good on it. Chain bounces the blades between enemies before it returns to you, so as I was saying, definitely with chains, get your chains from other sources. And fork splits the blades in two, so you get to catch twice as many blades as you threw out. So yeah, fork is what you want here. Now that's Venom Gyre. There's also a video that will show that off. Plaguebearer is a more complex skill, and I'm not immediately interested in it, but who knows, maybe the numbers will be there. So basically with Plaguebearer, there are two modes for the skill. It can be charging up a reservoir, or it can be discharging a reservoir of poison. While it's charging up, you will deal less poison damage, but a portion of this wasted damage that your poisons deal, would have dealt but that you're not dealing because of the reduced damage, will be stored up in Plaguebearer's buff. So think of that as charging up a reservoir. You're sacrificing your poison damage in order to build up a reservoir of poison. The higher the level of Plaguebearer, the more damage it can store. And in the video it shows the reservoir has a capacity of 1 million damage. I'm going to take a guess, hazard a guess that that's gem level 20, maybe gem level 21, and I think you can probably manage to get it higher than that. But that's just me taking a guess. We don't have the exact numbers yet. It stops lessening your poison damage when the skill has stored its maximum amount. So when the reservoir is full, you stop feeding part of your poison into this pool of damage. At any point you can tap the reservoir, so activate Plaguebearer again. It switches modes, becoming a damaging aura around your character, dealing 12% of the stored damage per second as chaos damage over time to enemies around you. This lasts until it runs out of stored damage, or until the skill is activated again, and this damage is not affected by your character's damage modifiers. This line is the one that I think might kill the skill. However, I'm still open to giving it a try and seeing what happens. When in this damaging mode, you won't be able to store up any more poison damage, and your poisons will deal their full damage. When you reactivate the skill or the stored damage runs out, the skill returns again to storing damage. Skill acts very much like a temporary righteous fire, letting you run through packs of enemies to wipe them out, or giving you an extra damage boost against tougher foes when you need it most. So, where I think this might shine is against blue packs that are particularly tanky, or against entire packs full of rare monsters. In those cases, all of the damage that you've saved up by filling up the reservoir by killing white mobs, all of that can then be put to use in slaughtering all of these tougher monsters. I don't think it's as impressive on bosses though. Anyways, let's have a look at the video showing them off. So this is Venom Gyre first, firstly with minimal supports, then with more. So that's the base mode of the skill. You'll see that these are the charges, and then boom, there's the whirling blades. Let's just watch that again. Oh, we didn't go far enough back. And we should actually go even further back than that. Here he goes, whirl. So there's lots of potential damage there. And here we go again with Plaguebearer this time. So it's turning it on, charging the reservoir. See, it's getting up to the 50,000 range. And here we are with the character that will have 1 million. That has 1 million damage in the reservoir. And it'll get set off soon. Boom. So that's the aura there. It's not particularly huge. You get 8.5 seconds of it roughly before it runs out. And then, oh, that was a Blight fungal growth, I think. Fortunately, this video doesn't showcase any of the Blight mechanics. That was a withering step with elusive. You see all of these mechanics interacting together. I think this character is dealing considerable damage, so I'm inclined to think that Plaguebearer, I don't think the numbers are likely to be there. you're basically going to be storing up overkill damage from killing white monsters, which is okay, that's quite useful, to get about an 8-second burst of damage on bosses, but I don't think the burst is as significant as it looks. That said, I'm very open to being proven wrong on that, and I'm willing to give it a try. Anyways, that's all I've got on these 2 new gems. They're interesting. Venom Gyre is really interesting, Plague Bearer less so, but I'm keen to see how they work out in practice.